All right. This is my audience. Okay. All right. Hello. So, are you guys confused about police reform and want to know what it's about? Bet you come to the right place. I'm going to tell you all about it. So, police reform, it's important for people to know what it is because it affects the community that everybody lives in. About police wise, crime wise, systematic level, unsystematic level. Um, the police presence greatly affects the city that I currently live in. And I know plenty of officers who would greatly appreciate a reform. I've seen others who do not wish a reform. Um, People believe different things. Let's see what they're about. First thing, we're going to get into how people started wanting the police reform and how it became. So, in the early 1920s, according to Gale, a publishing viewpoints webpage, they stated that early 1920s, police used to walk around uncivilized, but not uncivilized, unsupervised, but they helped out more in the community. They helped old ladies walk the street. They got cats out of the trees. They all did these sort of things. Over time, they became more focused on crime, and this has sort of much put a wedge between the people and the police force. In the 1967, a doctrine was passed called the Qualified Immunity Bill. What qualified immunity basically means is that police officers do not receive any, they aren't sued in court for anything, any damage or anything like that they may have caused. It's just so officers can do their jobs without worrying about a threat weighing over their heads that somebody may sue them for doing their jobs. The doctrine has since contributed to officers in cases of police brutality. These numbers have been going on for decades. Distrust of the police started to be studied in the 1970s and the 1980s, leading to reform ideas. One of those being community policing. This was done to gain trust back to the community. The second point, why do people want police reform? In the late 1990s, Clinton passed a bill called the Violent Crime Control Law, which is AKA for the 1994 crime law, which essentially the bill was to fund police departments more, to expand the number of officers who were on the force, to better equip them for situations that they need to handle out in the streets, and a number of other things. But critics have argued that this bill actually is a bad thing. According to Gale Opposing Viewpoints 2020, they state that these policies include racial profiling or the targeting of people basically solely on their race, ethnicity, or religious beliefs. Another example is the use of predictive or policing programs, which analyzes crime data. Critics argue that these programs inherently bias against Black and Latinx communities. What else? Articles on police reform by Gurpa and Shogun on undoing police reform. They state that Attorney General Jeff Sessions ordered to review federal agreements. Law enforcement agencies aimed at reforming troubled police departments. The Justice Department has reviewed these reports by the Chicago Police Department, found a pattern of excessive force. The two authors go on to further say that they found that the police shot or tased people who were no immediate threat at extraordinarily high rates. The department also failed to provide officers with sufficient police guidance, training, to collect and analyze data on officers' activities, whereabouts, and to hold these officers accountable for misconduct, and to offer them resources, equipment necessary for constitutional policing. Um, these problems were clearly at a systematic level, and people felt like that these problems should be dealt with. Um, All right, let's get on to the cons. All right. So the third point, cons. Why are people against police reform? It's not that people are against police reform. It's just that they're against certain policies that are in our police reform. One of those policies, including getting rid of qualified immunity. Um, there are a lot of officers and a lot of other people who believe that qualified immunity shouldn't go away. That is actually a tool used by police because um, an article called Qualified Immunity by the National Police Support Fund, they stated that they believe that taking away qualified immunity means that police will need to second guess every action that they do. They will have a threat looming over their heads every single day that they do not need. That what they need is actual more support. If you take that away, then it just leads a bunch of crime to just grow. The officers need help at the source, same way the people are needing help at the source. They argue that this act and getting rid of it will actually destroy the communities that the people who want the reforms to happen in are trying to fix. Um, so now I'm about done. I'm about to wrap this up. So, conclusion. Police reform has been around for decades. Uh, what it has about hasn't changed. People still want it for the exact same reasons. Now the policies that go into changing things, those are what have changed. And we learned about what it is. Qualified immunity. We learned about why people want it, why don't people want it. Um, and why do people generally feel that police reform should be a thing America needs to focus on. Do you feel like you should learn more about what happens in your community? Do you feel like the cops in your area do a great job? Why do you? Why don't you?
Woo! Woo!